Morning all, and we're on to day 4 now. Okay, so Genesis 1 verse 14. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens, to divide the day from night, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens, to give light on the earth." And it was so. Then God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So evening and the morning were the 4th day. Okay, so now we've got a world in a bubble with a large continent and a small ocean, and now we've got sun, moon and stars. All right. I think it's interesting and very significant that right at the end of the eschatological apocalypse, that the stars fall from heaven and the sun and moon go dark. Okay, so there seems to be a reversal of this process in the last days. All right. And I think that that's very significant, because this is like a sort of inclusio that sort of encompasses the entire Bible from beginning to end. That there's a sort of loop, a circle, a complete cycle that is closed. All right, and so we've got a very different planet from the one that we're used to now, haven't we? But it's difficult to know how visible those stars would be from Earth with a bubble around the Earth, sort of with a bubble in space. I mean, there are indications here actually, because the stars are set in the firmament. That does raise questions about my interpretation of the firmament being the sky, and so there is room for debate there, and some people believe that the water was actually put up beyond the stars, and but it's difficult to reconcile that with other texts, and I think that the evidence that there was no rain and there were no rainbows and there were no seasons before the flood, I think indicates that this was the case. All right, but you'll notice that my reasons are not scientific. My reasons are evidence within the text. Okay, and I think that that's very important, because of course this is our concern. Our concern is, what does the Bible actually say? All right. A couple of little notes here, just briefly, that God decided how long the day was, and then he set the planet in motion. Okay, so it's not the other way around. We set our times by the motion of the planet and the stars and the sun and everything around us, but actually God was doing everything the other way around. He was winding up a clock and setting it to go at the speed that he wanted, and I mentioned that before, so not much more needs to be said about that. Okay, but it does sort of shift our thinking. Okay, it also demonstrates what we said before, that the light on day 1 is not the sun. Okay, again, if man was writing this, he would of course have the sun there, and that would have been the light, and that would have been the beginning of it. But of course, actually, this was inspired by God, and this is a completely different process from anything that man would ever think of, because it flies in the face of normal logic. And this is one of the reassuring things about Genesis, is that not only does it actually make sense scientifically, it actually still paradoxically goes against the logic of men's thinking. All right. It's interesting also, of course, that the sun and moon are given as markers for seasons. Okay, so clearly they were visible to men on the planet, and they marked the seasons, because of course we don't hear about summer and winter until after the flood. So as such, what seasons were they? Were they just less extreme? Were there actually seasons beforehand, but just less extreme, and so not so marked? It's interesting also, again, in the Revelation in the last days, it talks about fruit being born 12 times a year, so in other words, all the time. So there are no seasons in the future, and it's an interesting thought that at this time then crops would have grown just around the clock, and they just grow, ripen and be harvested, and then you can grow them again. You wouldn't have to wait for a winter season to pass and put them at the right time. Imagine that would have been a completely different day-to-day life and year-to-year routine. All right. It's also significant actually that Noah's times, when you look at the times that he was in the ark and the times of the flood, and how long it was before he came out, they actually match a lunar cycle. That is one that's based on the moon. he doesn't go by a solar year, he goes by a lunar year, which is interesting. Just little details there which tell us that he was using the moon as his clock rather than the sun, which is very interesting. Of course, that would be the case if you didn't have a winter. Okay. So that's day 4. Not much I want to say about that, really. There's of course there is always more that I want to say, but I don't want the videos to be too long. Feel free to share. They're to bless people, and feel free to subscribe or just go to the playlist. I've got more stuff on the channel if you're interested in other subjects, and I will be adding more. And don't forget my website as well. Bless you all. Take care.